The substitution method involves converting the system into one equation with one variable using an appropriate substitution. So our steps to solving using substitution, the first step is to solve either of the equations for one variable in terms of the other. If one of the equations is already in this form, then this step is already done for you. Okay, so if you have y equals and your x is on the other side, step one is done. Okay, so step one, you want to look for the easiest possible thing. Step two, substitute the expression in step one into the other equation that it did not come from. This is going to result in an equation in one variable. Step three is to solve the equation containing the one variable. Step four, back substitute that value found in step three into the original equation. Simplify and then find the value of the remaining variable. And then lastly, you can check your proposed solution in both systems given equations. This step is optional, but it's a very good idea on a quiz or test to make sure you did your work correctly. So example number 2 for our section. Let's solve the system. 5x minus 4y equals 9. And x minus 2y equals -3. So the first thing to check for is one of your variables already solved for. Okay, and no, I've got x and y on the left, x and y on the left. So neither of my variables is solved for. From there you want to look at, is there a variable that is easy to solve for? Okay, meaning does one of my variables not have a coefficient? And the answer is yes on this one. X is just an x, so that would be the easiest variable to solve for. So step one, let's take this equation, x minus 2y equals -3, and solve this for x by adding 2y. So we get x equals -3 plus 2y, or in other words, 2y minus 3. So there's step one. Step two, we want to take this x and substitute it into our other equation. The other equation is 5x minus 4y equals 9. So we want to take x equals -3 plus 2y and put it in place of this x right here. So when we do that, we get 5 instead of x, -3 plus 2y, and then the rest of the equation as it was, -4y equals 9. Step 3 is to solve this equation. So use the distributive property. 5 times -3 is -15. 5 times 2y is 10y. Minus 4y equals 9. 10y minus 4y is 6y. Okay, eliminate minus 15 by adding 15 to both sides. So now we'll have 6y equals 24. And then our last step to solve, divide by 6. So we have half of our solution, y equals 4. Okay, to get the other half of our solution, x, you either want to go back to one of your original two equations, put in 4 for y into one of them, and solve for x, or the easiest thing is now that we have y equal to 4, we can go back to what we substituted and put y equals 4 in, and we'll get x. So x will equal -3 plus 2 times 4, and that's -3 plus 8, which is 5. Okay, we want to write our solution as an ordered pair, x comma y, and so our solution is x is 5, y is 4. Example 3, we are to solve the system 6x minus 2y equals 4, and 15x minus 5y equals 10. So we want to start with, are either of my variables solved for already? And the answer to that is no. We have our x's and our y's on the same side. Okay, and then from there we want to look and see, do any of my variables have no coefficient? And that's a no on this one. Everything has a coefficient. So when we're choosing which variable we want to solve for, the strategy that you want to use is choose a variable whose coefficient will divide into the other terms. Okay, so for instance, if you picked x to solve for, at some point you would have to divide by 6. Well, 6 will not divide into 2, and it will not divide into 4 without using fractions, and fractions will complicate things. So let's not solve for x. If I chose y, 2 will divide into 6, and 2 will divide into 4. So solving for y would be a good choice. Okay, you could also look at the second equation and decide, but since we've got a good choice with this y, let's do that one. So we're going to take 6x minus 2y equals 4 and solve for y. So we'd start by subtracting 6x. Negative 2y equals 4 minus 6x. And then next, divide by negative 2. And we get that y equals, both of these are to be divided by negative 2. So 4 divided by negative 2 is negative 2. And negative 6 divided by negative 2 is positive 3, so plus 3x. So there's step 1. Step 2, we want to take that for y and substitute it into our second equation. Second equation is 15x minus 5y equals 10. So we are taking minus 2 plus 3x and putting it in place of y. And so that will give us an equation of 15x minus 5 times negative 2 plus 3x equals 10. If we use the distributive property, we'll have 15x. Be careful to make sure you distribute the minus sign with the 5. Negative 5 times negative 2 is positive 10. Negative 5 times 3x is minus 15x equals 10. Okay, if we combine like terms, 15x minus 15x is 0. And so all we're left with on the left-hand side is 10. Our variable completely canceled away. And so like other equations, if your variable completely cancels away, you want to analyze what you have and determine if it's true or false. We're left with 10 equals 10. That is a true statement. And if your variables completely cancel away and you're left with a true statement, your conclusion is that the solution is that x is a real number. Okay, or the abbreviation, all real numbers with the boldface R.